Hi, it's Jen. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us on Automation Hour. Happy to have you. All right, so for those who are joining us for the first time, we have Automation Hour every other Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern. And we just recently posted our spring into early summer series of sessions. So we're very excited to see a lot of community members. We have 3 MVPs who will be presenting, some folks who also have presented at Dreamforce. So I'm very excited for that. And if you do have a cool process automation use case that you would like to present in a future session, submit your idea and then we'll reach back out to you when we start slotting our next round of sessions. So logistics-wise, everyone's lines are muted. So if you have a question throughout the presentation, start posting them on the chat section, and then we'll cover off on those questions towards the end of the presentation. They could be questions about Martin's presentations or just general process automation questions as well. And we will send out the link to the deck as well as the recording that we post out on YouTube after the session. We'll also post that out on the Success community as well and our website, automationhour.com. So I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Concrete.io. And here are your hosts, Jen Lee, Rakesh, and David. And in one more week, or less than one more week, all 3 of us will be at Southeast Dreamin' in Atlanta. So if you're going, give us a shout out, say hi at the 2 sessions that we will be running on Flow as well as Process Builder. And then with that, I am going to hand it off to Martin. He will be presenting use cases on the approval process. So thank you, Martin.
Okay. Jen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Good. I'm just going to make sure that I can see my screen at the moment. Can you see my screen right now? Oh, I'm going to make it available.
Yes.
Okay, you should be seeing my screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, well, thanks, Jen. Thanks to the Automation Hour team. Thanks for everyone at home and at work for listening, taking the time. I guess I should also say thanks if you've stumbled across this in a YouTube posting. I can assure you that I am speaking live now. I just pinched myself and it hurt, so that's proof. I'd also like to thank the previous presenters who up to now have been pretty amazing. Every time I watch this webinar, I get into this webinar, I'm amazed at how much can be learned and how innovative the presenters have been in finding solutions for work problems. Hopefully today, I'm going to give you some more ideas to try and put in your back pocket for another day. Today's talk is going to be about automations and how to improve and enhance your approval process with those automations. Now, the irony is, of course, approval processes are just another automation. So having said that, though, the techniques I'm going to show and demo today can certainly be applied to other scenarios. Now, as I go through the demo, I'm going to be following a pattern. I'm going to present the problem. I'm going to explain it. I'm going to look at solution possibilities. And then I'm going to say why I chose one of those solutions. And then I'm going to go into a demo where I hope to show you that it's working and go into some of the finer points. So, without further ado, let's look at the first business problem that I want to talk about. Company X has an approval process to submit requests to speaker admins for speakers present at events. Once the request has been submitted, the record is locked, preventing further updating until the record has been returned or approved. What the business want is they would like the ability to update certain fields on the form without having to get the records returned or submitted. And that's the problem. So first things first, what's an approval process? So an approval process is an automation tool in Salesforce that not all of us have had occasion to use. The best way to look at it is to examine real-life examples of approval processes, and one that we're probably most familiar with is a mortgage. We fill in a form with more details on that form than we care to admit. We submit that form to the mortgage company, they assess it, and they go through a number of steps to assess the risk that we are in order for them to grant us a back-breaking loan. Now, businesses generally have many approval processes buried in its system, and so much so that Salesforce recognized this and created this approval process functionality. And this approval process functionality enables us to specify entry criteria to the approval process, lay out the number of steps in the approval process and who performs them, and it also enables to specify the actions taken on submission or rejection of one of those processes, one of those requests. And then Salesforce also gives us a convenient wizard to help set this up. So now, just to restate the problem that we're facing right now, on the screen, if you see our guy on the left here, he's filled out a request and he submitted it. It's gone into our approval process here. This approval process could be many entry points to it. It could be many levels. It could be halfway through, and all of a sudden the chap on the left realizes that he needs to add some information to the record. Maybe it's changed slightly or whatever. Now, to get that back right now, he has to get hold of the pending approver, get them to reject the request, and he has to take the record back and clone it and resubmit it. It has to go through the process again. So this is not really a desirable state. So what do we do? First of all, of course, when finding a solution, we like to Google things. And a Google search shows us that there is indeed a desire for allowing editing locked records, but there's no obvious solution. In fact, we can see that ideas have been entered, submitted to Salesforce for voting up into, on coming up for releases. So we'll have to examine potential solutions, one of which could be an Apex Visual Force overall solution. That does sound a little bit like reinventing the wheel, and we could be losing out-the-box functionality when we do that. Flow is also something that comes to mind. However, that is also restricted by the same locked record issue that the user is facing. So what do we do? Now, in thinking about the solution to this problem, I was reminded of Rakesh Gupta's Automation Champion blog. I should say right away, this is an excellent blog, and I recommend it to everybody. It's got A to Z of all flows and process builders, so do look that one up. In one of those entries, part 20, add chatter followers to records, to be exact, he points out this interesting thing about process builders. And just to quote it here, a flow runs in user mode, but process builder runs in system mode. Therefore, the process builder runs with system level permissions and not the user permissions of the user that might have invoked it. I can take that snippet of information and use it to create my solution overview. Here it is. Now the system, the submitter of this record submits the record, and then he wants to update it, and this is our initial problem. He updates the problem. He doesn't know whether it's locked or not locked at this point. But what's going to happen is I'm going to use Visual Force and Apex to redirect control to a flow. This flow is going to present that user with the fields that we want him to be able to update and no more. He's going to update those fields. He's going to click save. And what's going to happen is the flow is going to write that record away. Now, it can't write it to the original speaker request record, but what it can do is write to a brand new object, a custom object, a helper object. That object is going to be monitored by a process builder, and what that process builder can do is invoke a flow. Now, we know that process builder is going to be running a system mode, and therefore it's going to invoke the second flow, and that second flow will act as in system mode, and it will therefore have the capabilities of updating the original record. So that is it in theory. Let's have a look and see this in a demo. Now, I've logged onto Chrome as Brian Jones here, as a regular user. He's not an admin. He wants to create a request for a speaker to appear. He's going to request something called Bono, this date. Now, he's going to request a topic. He's going to enter a topic that he wants him to talk about. And this one we don't want to change, but it's going to be 1986. And the topic that may change, we want Bono to talk about Ireland. I'm going to save it. Great, I like that. I'm going to submit it for approval. There it is, it's been submitted. At this point, I realized that maybe I'm missing an opportunity here, to have this guy talk about Ireland. Maybe there's something else. I'll edit. No, I can't do that. The record is locked. So that's the problem that the business is facing. What can I do about it? I'm going to log on as me, so I can do some changes. And the first thing I'm going to do is as we said in our overview of the solution, I'm going to redirect him using Visualforce and Flow. So the way I do that, if I go to a custom object here, which is the speaker request, and go down to this button link here. I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to override that edit button with a Visualforce page. Save. Now, of course, that Visualforce page didn't magically appear there. I'm actually responsible for creating that page, which will do the redirect. But there it is. Hold on, no, that's not it. It's here. It's I've overridden my edit page. So that Visualforce, what does that look like? Here is the code that Visualforce is presenting. It's actually this is a piece of code, by the way, that redirecting of a button to a flow is something you're going to want to do somewhere along the line if you get into flows. So this is what it does. The actual calling of the flow is here in this middle markup here. It's going to call a flow by the name of speaker request write PV helper. Once it's finished, it's going to go back to the original page with the speaker ID being the current record, speaker request ID. The parameter in the flow, speaker request PV helper, is defined as an in-speaker request ID. So that's actually going to be right in the flow. I'm going to give it a value of the speaker request ID. Now, it's not quite all of the logic here, the code logic here. There is an extension controller and an action, a redirect me action. Now, what that is going to do, it's going to capture my logic, basically, and send me where I really need to be. Let's see. If I'm a system admin, or let's say if I'm not a system admin and the process is locked, then I want to go into that flow. If I am a system admin, I do not want to go into that flow. I want to be presented with a regular update page. Also, if I'm not a system admin and the record is not locked, I want to go into the regular update page. So I'll have to override my override, so to speak. Now, two pieces of information that I need. I'm going to need to query my profile here. I'm going to get that from the user info profile. I'm going to be comparing that to see if it's a system admin later. The other data that I'm going to need is if I use this approval object, I can find out if my specific approval process record is locked. And I can use that logic there to either override my override or just carry on into the flow. Okay, so having said that, if the record is locked, it's going to send me into this flow. So let's have a look at this flow. Speaker request write PB helper. Let's bring this up. Speaker request write PB helper. Here we are. So if you remember, the object of this flow is just to enable the user to make the updates that he needs to make. First thing it's going to do, when I present it, it's going to take that ID that we passed in. It's going to look up the speaker request, and it's going to present me with what's in the current fields we want to edit. We want them to edit. What are the current values? It's going to take those current values. It's going to present them in a screen to the user. There's the event date and the topic that may change. It's going to be presented to the user. The user can then perform whatever updates they want to do, and then it's going to create a record. It's not going to update the speaker request record. It's actually going to create a brand new record, the custom object process builder helper record. It's going to write the initial ID of the speaker request ID. It's going to also send forward the date value that we want to change possibly, and the topic that can change will be passed into it. We also pass this type value in there. So that is so that we can use this process builder helper record as a multi-purpose function. If we wanted to do something else, some other functionality, we can. So let's look at our process builder. What we want to see is this process builder helper new record. So this is where process builder is doing the functionality of calling our flow in system mode. It's monitoring the process builder helper record, and it's looking for a change of speaker request. Actually, check for it's making sure that once this record is changed, that the process builder helper record, the type equals speaker request. So we know this change is to do with our functionality and not something else. Once it finds that record, it's going to call another flow, the speaker request locked update flow. This one called in system mode. It's going to pass through the event date that's the field that changed, the topic that's going to change, and that speaker request ID. So let's go and look at that flow and see what that's doing. And here it is. You couldn't really have got a more simple flow than this. It merely looks up the initial speaker request ID using the value that's been passed, and it updates it with the event date and the topic that may change. So with that, let's see if this has indeed done the trick for Mr. Jones. As you remember, he couldn't touch that topic that may change. Let's see if we're any better off. Oh, I've been redirected. Here I am. I have been presented with the event date and the topic that may change. I'm going to change it. I'm going to say, let's get into talk about rock and roll, shall we? And click next. And sure enough, a lock record has been updated. And I think I can go back to my PowerPoint demo. But I'm not done yet. There's a further request. And that further request is thanks for making those lot records editable, but could you put a set of reminders in place so that our users and admins do not ignore records. They need to approve. They need to approve, reject, or close out. So with that, I've got 3 notes. 3 notes. There are 3 reminders required. The allowed periods before the reminder notice is sent out will be provided, but they should be changeable if we want them to. And also, calculating the date reminder to be sent. When doing that, ignore the holidays and weekends. So those last 2 points there are the real kickers that makes this a much more complicated request than it might seem. Just to go over the business problem again, an approval event occurs which requires a user to take action. After 24 hours, if no action has been taken, they want to see a reminder sent to the approver who's not doing his job. After 24 more hours with no response, that approver will get another reminder, not as polite as the first reminder we received. After 24 more hours, they'll send an email and chatter post to the an admin. So that's what it should look like from a business perspective. What solutions do we have? Obviously, once again, we can adopt a completely Apex code, but much as before, could be missing out the box functionality. If we do that, it might be a longer-winded response than what we really want to do. We can also adopt a totally flow response, a total flow solution. Now, I'm going to come back to this a little bit later. The third option is we can really think outside the box and go outside Salesforce. Suppose, for instance, we know that we're replicating all our data down to an on-prem database, and we could use some other technology to distribute the emails and warnings. Sacrilege, I know, but nevertheless a possibility. So now what I opted for was the Process Builder hybrid solution using Flow and some Apex. But let's return to this Flow option right now. So early in February, I tuned into the Automation Hour webinar, and Matthew Souther was giving a talk, a presentation entitled "Things That Expire." So it wasn't long before I realised that this topic and my scheduled alerts were basically the same thing. But Matthew had a much different solution to this. He basically had a total flow solution. This flow was running continually. It's polling for the presence of expired records. It was basically run as a cron job, producing logs. It could be run in test mode. It was emailing. It was sending out reports. And it could even be run as a previous day. So obviously what it's doing, continually saying, do I have to send out any messages now? Do I have to send out any messages now? Etc. And continually running. So in short, Matthew is quite the genius, and this was an incredibly innovative approach. However, so I'm sat there thinking, did I make the right choice? But after examining it further, I think I did. My solution did stand up. So why did Matthew opt for Flow over a more orthodox solution? And why was Process Builder not Matthew's friend? Well, amongst other things, Matthew points out that Process Builder, when you put the Process Builder solution in place, it can't deal with any previous cases that might have existed. And that's true. The other problem he had was if a user is creating a Process Builder action, that user, if it's deactivated, then the scheduled actions that he created are also deactivated. Now these problems were incredibly important to Matthew because he was basically dealing with subscriptions. They were over a long time. It could be a lot of people about to receive these notices of the subscriptions, and so these were pretty key points. My cycle that I was dealing with was a lot less than a subscription cycle, and I think one could say that at the most, the turnaround time I would have on an alert going out would be no more than 10 days. 10 days is an exaggeration. So these issues were not the same as me. I was not affected by these shortcomings as a process builder, and I think we were able to go to production with this solution. So Matthew and I are not starting a Twitter war, and we are still sending each other Christmas cards. Let's have a look at my solution. This is a solution where Process Builder is basically the quarterback. It's monitoring changes to the request itself, the pending approver of the request. When a change happens, it's using code to take the alert dates, those variable alert periods. It's going to use some code to actually calculate when the alert date should happen, bearing in mind that we don't want to include non-business days or holidays. And that's going to be done in code for us. What it's going to do then, the code is going to actually update our record, our request record, with the 3 alert dates, and we're going to have flow, scheduled actions for flow, which is going to be monitoring those dates, and once it comes across those dates when they're met, it's going to send out the alerts and emails. So that's going to happen for the first reminder, second reminder, and third reminder. With that, let's have a demo. So in order for this to work, for my process builder to really work, I'm going to have to set up a few things. There's 3 things namely that I need to set up. First of all, my approval process is going to need to be changing the approver, the approver field. And the pending approver is actually a custom field that I've in place. So when it's submitted, I have this field update here, which is going to set the pending approver to manager, the ID manager of that would be the submitter's ID. Once the manager approves, it's going to set the pending approver to a team. So anybody on this team can approve the next step. However, the pending approver field has been set. So that's one of the things that we need in place. The other, we need to store our alert dates somewhere where it's changeable. Now I chose a custom metadata object to do this. I created one and created the field. Now you could use custom settings or custom labels. Really, they do the same thing. For me, custom metadata fields did the trick. I created an object. On the object, I have a first alert period, a second alert period, a third alert period, and which you can guess that's going to hold the alert periods. And I also have this thing called an hour flag. Now this is going to enable us to test this whole process with a turnaround of hours and not days. Vital for testing, not something we'll need for production. Also note that the first alert date I've got set to 0. That's so that the second I submit something, the approver is going to get a reminder straight away. We wouldn't have that in production either. Now, the other thing we're going to need is something to hold our holidays and record which days are business days. Luckily, Salesforce has that for us, the object already. It's under company profile and it's under business hours. If I go through here, this was initially set to 24/7 availability. I took Sunday and Saturday off the card cards and made them non-business hours. So so this would mimic regular times. And also we have here this holiday section where we can add and remove holidays. I've added Christmas here. It's recurring. We can maintain this and add all kinds of holidays as they come up, preferably a year ahead. So those are the three things we need for our setup, for our process builder to work. Let's have a look at our process builder. It's the speaker request alert. Here it is. There's the speaker. It's going to monitor the speaker request record. It's looking for a change of approver. Speaker request pending approver is changed, and it's not blank. When it recognizes those situations, it's going to perform an immediate action here. That immediate action is it's going to call some code. A class which can be referred to is going to have a label of set stored dates. I'm going to see that in a minute. It's this that's going to perform our date work. And then we've got our schedule actions for each of our flows. 3 flows, 3 scheduled actions. I just want to go in and show you what's going on here. So 0 days after that first stored date alert date has been met, I am going to perform this action, which is I'm going to call a flow called first and second reminder chatter process, and I'll pass in the speaker ID and a reminder number. Now, just for out of interest here, the second alert date, it's also going to happen here on the second, when the second alert date has been met. It's also going to call the first and second reminder chatter process flow, but I'm going to pass in this parameter too. So from that, you can probably guess that what we're going to do for the first reminder and the second reminder is very close. We just need to distinguish one from the other so that we can make a couple of necessary changes. That is essentially the process builder that we need to put in place. Next, I think we can look at the code. We've got a class called set record stored alert dates. Thing to note about this class is it's got an annotation of an invocable method, and there's our set stored dates. This is so process builder can recognize this class as something it can call, and it will call it using this label. We also I create an instance of the class business hours map. This is also a custom class that was written. I will include this in a package which I'll put on the community, so you can take a look at this and use reuse. But this is essentially what we're going to do on map. It's going to be looking at the Salesforce hours, business hours, and holidays. And you see it being invoked, but we're not going to go into the details there. I'm here, I'm looking at the our custom metadata field for the ISR alerts. I'm putting them in a first alert, second alert, third alert variable, and here's our hours flag. Okay, so for every record that I've brought into the process, I'm going to say, if we're not going to be calculating this in hours, what I'm going to do is set the first stored process alert date to this result of this business hours map, where I'm adding the first alert to the current date. And like I say, the business hours map is going to do remove the business days, non-business days from the calculation. Once we do that, we should have, we'll be updating the speaker request record with these dates, these stored dates, alert dates in place. Here is what all I need if I'm working in hours. I just need to add the hours, and I don't need to invoke the business hour map. So just add these hours straight away. I'm not worried in the test case of looking at the holidays, etc. There is my code. I'm left now to look at the flow. The flow is the first and second reminder chatter process. Here it is. And there's some interesting things in this flow. First of all, I'm looking at the organization to get the instance of my organization. This is so I can add the ID to here and provide a link. So if I send an email out, I can use that link to go right into my Salesforce instance and pull up my record. So we'll be using that later in the chatter post. I'm looking at the speaker request, most notably next to pull in the pending approval. This is the person who's going to be getting all the alerts. I have a decision box here. One really interested in this place is to work out whether I'm dealing with a team that I've got to send alerts to or just an individual. If it's just an individual, it's going to pile down here, and it's going to be writing a chatter feed item. The body is set to a formula field, and I'm going to show you that last, and that's where we distinguish reminder 1 from reminder 2. The link URL, that's our org ID, our instance, together with our speaker request ID. The parent ID is the person who's going to get the post. There's a title and also the type telling us that it's actually a link post. Now, so that's if it's an individual. If I'm looking up a team, I'm going to look up the team in a group. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get the ID of that group initially. I'm then going to do a fast lookup of the group to find the group members. That's going to put this in a group members collection object. From the collection object, I'm going to loop round each one of the team members. I'm going to be creating this chatter object for them. And notice here, the parent, the person who's going to get it, is going to be the alert is going to be the team member. I'm not sent the alert at this point. The next thing I'm doing is assigning that chatter object to a chatter collection object. So I'm adding all the team members to the chatter collection object with the necessary information, and then at the end I'm going to do a fast create to send the chatter posts. I did say I was going to look at the chatter body, because there's one or two interesting things in that chatter body. Here, this is where I look at that parameter to distinguish the first reminder from the second reminder. And in this case, it's pretty simple. And just actually, if it's a second, I'm using the word second. So we'll get this is a second reminder that you have to approve via ISR, etc., etc. The other interesting thing about it, the flow doesn't give us any formatting, so we have to make our own. It's kind of a hack to make this line throw, this line feed, and I'm doing it by I created a custom label called new line, and what it is a dash, and then I send and create a new line in the actual label itself. Then I end it with a dash. This substitute is going to pull in that label, but it's going to remove the dashes, leaving me with a new line. So hence it looks like I've got formatting in my chatter post. Nice. So with that, our flow in place, let's see if Brian Jones can invoke a reminder for his manager. So here's Brian Jones. I'm going to create a brand new speaker request. Again, I'm going to ask Sabona. There's the date. Topic that may change is going to be 1989 this time. And I still want him to talk about rocks. And I'm going to save it. Now, at this point, notice I've included all these stored alert dates on the field here just for viewing purpose, not something we want to share with the users, but nothing has happened to those at the moment. If I submit for approval, the process builder has done its job and it's filled, it's invoked the code that's created these alert dates. Hopefully the flow has done the job as well. So at this point, if I flip back to his manager, and his manager, it's me, I flip back to the manager here. No, that's still Brian Jones here. I should be able to see something, an alert, a reminder posted to my chatter feed. Now it does take a few minutes to go in there. So in that time, I'm just going to show you one more thing to do with flows. And I'm going to show you this test flow that I created. So in putting this flow together, sometimes things go wrong, as every developer will attest. We will need to know things, what with certain values at certain places. So what we can use, if we change the type of flow from a auto launch flow to a regular flow, we're able to put in these screens. And these screens obviously work from the flow itself. I can dot them around to know whether the logic has reached them, here, there, or there, here, there, or everywhere. Here. And if I run this, that first screen will prompt me for the ID of the ISR and the chatter number, which is the request number 1 or 2. So in that case, I can test my flow without the help of Process Builder. Now, going back into a chatter post, at the moment I don't have any chatter posts. If I hit a reminder, there it is. I see my chatter post 042 for the process that was created, and it's a reminder that I have to approve that speaker request record. And with that, I think that is my demo. The next stage, are there any questions? And I would like to thank everybody for listening.
Thanks, Martin, for that presentation. We do have a series of questions. First one from Cheryl. Can you get rid of the out-of-the-box submit for approval button?
Can I get rid of your dog first, Jen? That was yours.
I'm sorry, what?
I didn't mean that. I can hear your dog barking in the background. So can I get rid of the submit for request? Submit for approval button.
Can you get rid of the out-of-the-box submit for approval button?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The fact that we've got this attached to an approval process, you may not be able to. I'm really curious as to know why you would want to get rid of the button, because after all, when you create the approval process record, you may not want anybody to see it at that point, right? There may be things you need to do. It might be just in preparation for something. You don't necessarily want to submit that until you're good and ready. So I would say, I'm not really sure, but once again, I don't know if you'd really want to do that.
Okay. And the next question is, could you show the first process builder where you had the delay of 0 days and help me understand what it will do? Will it commit the previous changes and then do the delayed action?
All right. So, you want to see the first example, right? And it was, you want to see the first process builder. So that was here. is this the one you want, or was it the next one with showing the alerts? I think it was the alerts, right?
I'm not sure, but if Lily is still on, and she's just said the next one.
Okay, all right, next one. And could you repeat the question again, Jen?
Sure. So the question was, could you show the process builder and help me understand what it will do? Will it commit the previous changes and then do the delayed action?
Oh yeah. So we're in here, right? The immediate action it's going to do is call the code, right? This code which is responsible for setting those 3 alert dates, and they're all going to reside on the speaker request record. So that information is committed to the record. The scheduled action here will not happen until that stalled alert date has been met. Now, what I was doing, when I was actually putting the alert periods in place, I had a 0 day as my first alert period, and that's why we saw it straight away. But generally, say, if I was to add 1 to today, it would say, okay, we're not going to send an alert out on Saturday, we're not going to send an alert out on Sunday, you're going to get it Monday. And so the alert date that would go in would be the 27th, sorry. You get the 27th in here, and when this time has been met, that date has been met, this flow would get invoked at that point. Hopefully that cleared it up.
Okay. The next question comes from Eric. Why use a flow for the final update rather than doing it in Process Builder?
Because, and that's a good question. Because maybe it's too good a question. Let's see. Because the record that was invoking this was the Process Builder helper record, right? And it's not related to the speaker request record. So it's a totally unrelated record. I do have to find the speaker request record and perform the update. I couldn't do it from Process Builder.
Okay. And the next question comes from Lori. Can you explain why the org ID is needed, and what if you didn't supply it?
Yeah, okay, so the org ID, what I did, and I probably didn't show this quite as well, I had a formula field to do it. I take the org ID, I attach the speaker request ID, and then I pass that into the chatter post as a URL, right? So that gives me the instance ID and the ID of the speaker request. If I click on that link, I'm going to go, it takes me right into Salesforce and right to the record I need. Now, a lot of people will hard code the instance ID, and that will do the same thing as well. However, it's nice to not have to touch this as it goes from production, dev to QA to a production environment. Having said that, though, the instance IDs didn't really work very well for me in a developer edition. The instance that was given did not really correspond. However, it did work for me in dev, QA, and production environments.
All right. Folks out there, if you have any additional questions for Martin on his presentation or general process automation questions, post those questions now. We'll give folks a couple of minutes if they're typing away.
Yes.
All right, there is one from Mohammed. Is it possible to loop through a child S-object collection, let's say with a criteria to find all active child records, then assign the most recent value to the parent?
Yeah. I can see why you'd want to do that. So it's almost like you want to make you possibly want to hold. I'm not sure how you keep, like that the one value that you're particularly interested in. You hold it and pass it through. I know, Rakesh, have you got any ideas for this, or Jen?
So Mohammed added it's for creating a token for login flows.
So I don't think so. We need anything for login token and all. So you can either delete the token that you have generated previously, or you can use the sort feature in this record lookup or fast lookup. So there is a sort of option. So you can sort the result and then you will get the recent one. You don't have to loop and all.
Right.
All right, last call for questions. And one thing to note on the topic of hard coding IDs is I do have a blog post coming out on Tuesday on that very topic and how you could prevent hard coding IDs in process builders and flows and things like validation rules and formulas. So look out for that at jenwlee.wordpress.com. All right, Gavin has a question. I'd like to know if we are using Professional Edition, not approval, process, or visual workflow. How could we use Process Builder to mimic an approval process?
So I've never done that. Let's see.
I don't have any experience with Professional Edition either. Rakesh or David, either one.
Yeah, I mean, I know with Professional you're limited quite a lot. I mean, the only thing that kind of would come to mind for me would be the ability to use Process Builder to maybe switch record types, because those are there now, and change page layouts or something to try to lock it. But yeah, it's going to be kind of a duct tape solution because you won't have the full functionality available to you. And I'm sure there's probably somebody out there. I think Jared Miller, I forget who he was reaching out to, or who helped him out on a world tour presentation about a year ago, and it was just tips and tricks with Professional Edition. So I'm sure there's a few people out there in the success community that have run up against that. So I'd post that to the success community and see if anyone out there has some experience with that.
Great. Any other questions? 5 more minutes left. Oh. All right. Mohammed asks, can we set default values on the record before being saved via flow? Let's say when we select new, similar to a custom button.
So on flow, yeah, I think whenever so that would be through a screen, right? We can certainly specify those in our flow. In fact, I did set the default records in one of the examples today, the default values. So I think you could do those. You could certainly do that when you present a flow.
Oh, he just clarified he meant auto-launched flow.
Oh. Default values. So, I don't know, I mean, one thing you could do is certainly pull them in from some kind of default value record or custom label, say, for instance, or custom setting. You could pull in those defaults, make a call to that, bring them in, and populate them.
All right, final call. All right, I'm not seeing anything come in. All right, so thank you again, Martin, for doing your presentation on Automation Hour on approval processes. Thanks to our participants for joining us. Our next session is April 7th with Ian Schultz on business analysis and using tools for automation. So we'll look for you to join us then. Have a great weekend.
And see you on Southeast Living.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Rakesh. Thanks, David.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.